Welcome everyone to the San Diego Patriots podcast, episode 30. Sitting here with my friend, Mr. Gabe Ruiz. How you doing, brother?
Hey, doing all right, man. Just enjoying my morning, you know?
Yeah. I appreciate it, man. I know we started off a little early here, but we're in beautiful downtown San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
How long you been living here?
I've been living here for about 14 months now, a little over a year, yeah.
Yeah, but you've been in San Diego for most of your adult life, at least, right?
Yeah, almost 20 years. It's basically 19 and a half years. I moved here for school for San Diego State. So, yeah, I've been here ever since now.
But you were raised NorCal,
Napa,
correct?
yeah.
Napa.
Yep,
Okay,
Napa.
so wine country.
Yeah, I always feel blessed to have moved from one beautiful place to another. I'm like, oh my God, Napa to San Diego, you can't go better than that, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to leave California. I mean, I'm sure you've traveled all over the place. Like, I know you just went to Spain about a month ago, right?
Yeah, I went to Europe. My first time in Europe, went for a month. I'd never been before. I got invited to a bachelor party out there. Went to Ibiza, Barcelona, and then went to all over Italy, basically, and then Paris and France. Visited my old roommate from college out there. He had a kid, so got to see him, make the most of the trip, and then went to the UK after that for a little bit too. So gone for a full month. It was amazing.
Wow. So you just took the whole time off from work, just kind of detach, reset a little bit.
Yeah, exactly, man. And the good thing is I can run, the work that I do, I can do pretty much all over the world from my laptop. So it's kind of nice to be able to, even though I didn't plug in while I was there too much, but it was nice to be able to monitor stuff,
Yeah, for sure. And that was, one of the main reasons I was interested in talking to you. So I know, you and I briefly met a couple years ago, but, I myself, I've been in the world of sales for 5 years now and had my fair shares of, ups and downs and learned a lot as a person. But I always respect people who do well in the world of sales. And, you had a pretty good reputation at our last company. Like, what got you into sales and, how's it been going so far?
Yeah. So initially, obviously I went to San Diego State. I got my degree in international relations. That was, I thought about doing international business. And then I kind of fell into that, I don't know what to do after college phase. And I think a lot of people go through that. Unless you're like a doctor, an engineer, or someone has a very specialized degree, you kind of, a lot of people what do you do, right? I was working in restaurants. I worked at some downtown here, and I bartended for a little bit. And one of the girls who is a good friend of mine still to this day, she recommended that I look at this company. She's like, and I was getting to the point, I was 24. I'd been out of college for about a year and a half. And I was like, also, I need health insurance, and I spent a lot of money. I paid for all my own college. I didn't have help from my family, not because they didn't want to, but just because it didn't work out, So I was like, I need to get a career. I need to do something with my life and not just bartend all the time, even though it was a lot of fun. And you still make a lot of money. It wasn't like when people talk about the service industry, the one thing I always say is that I was making more than most of my friends who were in entry-level white-collar jobs. It was like I was making a lot more. However you feel about that, I was making more than all those people. So it wasn't a bad thing necessarily, but I wanted to take that next step and figure that out.
Something with like a higher ceiling, right? That's usually why people make the switch, right?
Yeah. So little did I know I'd be at that company for 10 years, but it was a really, really, really great experience. Obviously met a lot of great people, and I learned the ropes of everything regarding sales. That company is a great company for, either make a career out of it or you start and move on to something else.
Structure, teaching you good skill sets, stuff you could take with you for the rest of your life.
And I think the one thing that I appreciate about that company is they kind of threw me into the fire, right? And kind of changed my mindset in regards to, I had always been a very, sometimes I do things without acting, but I'll never forget the gentleman who hired me. I had an intern for a year, which was one of the longest times that people had an intern. Most people intern for a few months and they got the job or they said no.
Yeah.
They liked me enough to where they kept me because I was doing well as an intern, but they weren't sure about my potential quite yet. But I remember in the initial interview just to get the internship, the VP at the time was like, if we hired you today, would you jump right onto the field and go sell and just figure it out, or would you take time to read a manual or doing it? And I'm very much a technical person. I was like, I want to be an expert in what I do. So I answered, I was like, I want to know what I'm selling, right? I want to read what I'm doing so I don't make a butt out of myself out there, But that's not what they wanted to hear. They want you to just jump into the fires, which kind of took me out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And so I interned for a while. Eventually I got the job, right? I was okay for like the first year or two. I wasn't quite sure what to do still, because I'm very much a talker, but I think my biggest flaw is sometimes I'm go with the flow too much, and so unless I'm being pushed a little bit, at least when I was younger, I'm not going to push myself. And I had to kind of go through that fire, and forge myself into something better after those first couple of years. And then from then on out, once I got the hang of the job and I realized how easy you could make it with your time, and because I love that job so much, because, as we know, a lot of white collar jobs, you're sitting in an office 8 to 5. With that company they work for, if you crush it from 8 to noon, you can take off the rest of the day. I mean, you can still work and keep making money, but it gives you the freedom and flexibility to do other things.
Yeah, and that's interesting. You say that, because I know something that I've learned in my life so far is this: that you really do learn through repetition. So there is some sense to jumping into the fire, jumping into the deep end, and
Yep.
figuring it out.